your decision making on a daily basis. You as a family, you're going to have to say, how does God say you should raise this children, these children? How does God say I'm to be the husband? Does God say you're to be the wife? How does God say I'm to operate at work? Does God say I'm to operate in the secular environment? What does God say? And it ought to be the first question, not the one you run to after you tried everything else. He says it's time to grow up and become mature. You've been infants too long, and the church in America has been an infant church. Mega churches and all. What will happen if you decide to be mature? Which is the use, not only the knowledge of the word. First thing that happens is that you'll now be able to pick up on spiritual signals. You won't need rabbit ears because you'll have direct TV. You won't need rabbit ears when you have direct TV because there's something up in the sky that's sending you a signal. You'll be able to pick up, the Holy Spirit will be able to bring God's thoughts to your mind. See, that's what God does with spiritual people. He brings, see, we have the national news and local news. Right now, I'm preaching the national news. You know, national news, you get things that happen all over the place. But for your daily decision making, you need local channels. You need local news. You need stuff that's talking to you about the thing you're facing and what you're going through. The national news don't deal with you. It deals with national. But the local news is where you live. Okay, so when you come to church, you get national news. But when you are mature, you get local news. God can now talk to you, bring thoughts to your mind, ideas to your mind, let you see things behind the scenes that you couldn't see with your physical eyes. But he'll let you in on some secret stuff. Because he can now speak to your mind. Because you can now pick up signals you couldn't pick up before. Because you're growing spiritually. The signals work. You'll be able to distinguish between legit and illegit. Okay, now here's the big. This is the final one. This is the He started off in verse 11 by saying, concerning him, I have much to say. He's going to say a lot in chapter 7. So this week, we read chapter 7. We'll go into it in more detail. But he says, I can't talk to you now about him. Because you're too infant. You're too babyish. And he says, I have much to say. So whatever this is a big deal that I want to tell you, but you're not ready to hear it. So I'm going to tell you now, even though some may not be ready to hear it. Because it's a big deal. Back up in verse 5, he says, so also Christ did not glorify himself so as to become a high priest. But he who said to him, you are my son, today I have begotten you, just as he says also in another passage, you are a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek. Verse 10. Being designated by God a high priest according to the order of Melchizedek. He says, I want to tell you about the Melchizedekian priesthood. I want to talk to you about that, but you already read it. And I want to tell you that Jesus Christ is after the order of Melchizedek. Now to understand what Jesus is to you today, he says, if you understand Melchizedek, it'll help you to understand who Jesus is today, because Jesus is a high priest like Melchizedek was. So who is Melchizedek and why does it matter? Genesis chapter 14. This is how the New Testament takes the Old Testament and brings its relevancy to us today through the person of Jesus Christ. In Genesis chapter 14, Abraham has been involved in a battle, in a fight. He's come back from a battle. Verse 17 of Genesis 14. He comes back from this battle, and verse 18 says, and Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. Bread and wine. That's all I can read tonight. He brought out bread and wine. Now he was a priest of God Most High. You say that. God Most High is El Elyon. El Elyon means the God who overrules. Set him up. Now Melchizedek is a high priest and of the Most High God, but he's also a king of Salem. Salem means Jerusalem, that is peace. He is a king, and he blessed him and said, blessed be Abram of God Most High. Okay, what did Melchizedek do? He blessed Abraham. So Melchizedek is the priest who brings blessings to Abraham. Now guess what the Bible says? You and I are the seed of Abraham. It's with me because we in a little tall cotton. He says, blessed to Abraham, God of Most High, possessor of heaven and earth. Jesus Christ, all authority has been given to me. Okay? And blessed be the God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hands. He, that is Abraham, gave him a tenth of all, a tithe of all. So let me summarize, because there's so much here. Abraham has been in a fight. He's been in a battle. You can read it in the preceding verses. And the God Most High has given him victory. But he's been in a fight. When he comes back, he meets Melchizedek, a high priest, coming out of a fight. Melchizedek blesses him, gives him bread and wine, because he's been in a fight. You will see in the following verse, he's getting ready to go into another fight with the king of Sodom. So he left one fight, he's going to another fight. Between the two fights, he runs into Melchizedek, the high priest. Melchizedek blesses him, gives him bread and wine to strengthen him, because he's getting ready to go into another fight. If you're a serious Christian, I mean last week you were in a fight. See, if you're not a serious Christian, you ain't in no fight, because nobody's rejecting you, nobody's against you, you just going along with the crowd. But if you're going to stand up for Jesus Christ, you're going to run into some fights. Sometimes in your family, sometimes in your marriage, you're going to run into some stuff. Sometimes that can make you weary. That was last week. But now this week, you got a fight coming up you don't even know about yet. It's not because you're looking for a fight, trying to find a fight, trying to be in a fight. It's just because the world is against you. So between last week's fight and this week's fight, you need some bread and wine. You need to be refreshed, empowered, strengthened with the blessing of God to help you deal with what it looks like when you're a mature Christian. Says, I want to tell you about Melchizedek. Why? Because Jesus is after the order of Melchizedek. How? Because he brings to us the strength for spiritual living in the fight of a secular society by the bread and wine of his communion with us, so that we can go and fight and watch him overrule. Watch El Elyon make the final decision. The reason why you want to be a mature saint is because that means your circumstances don't have the final decision. Your boss doesn't have the final decision. The situation in the culture doesn't have the final decision, because you belong to the mature saints of God under the priesthood of Christ, who's after the order of Melchizedek, who can meet you in the battles of life. Somebody ought to be wanting to be a mature Christian, so that all that God can give and wants to give, you're able to receive. you're going to battle if you're going to be able to a Christian, because you're going to be living by divine insight in that secular perspective. It is easy to forget what this is supposed to be all about. So if you want to change what you do, you got to change who